Welcome to the Learning Lab Instructor Edition. This is your safe space to ask questions about your teaching practice. We primarily focus on American Mahjong using the National Mahjong League cards, but most of the time our topics can be applied to any version of the game. So if you teach with other cards or maybe even another version altogether, the topics that we share typically will transfer. If you have any questions about your teaching practice, make note of them because there will probably be some time left over at the end of the session where we can open it up for peer support. In the meantime, we're going to be talking about package and deliver with confidence. This is the third in a series of topics on how to deliver lessons that players will know what to expect and walk away with outcomes that you are able to deliver on. So the first session we talked about designing an experience, and the session after that we talked about flow and scale, so that if you have a class that is larger than anticipated, how to make adjustments on the fly and make sure that your lesson plan flows regardless. And then now, again, we're going to be talking about packaging and delivering with confidence. Hi, Kathy, welcome. Okay, so we're going to try something here. We have a new feature in here. I want to ask something. Let's see how this goes. This will be we did a test earlier this week, so I want to do this one live and on the fly. Let's see how it goes. Oh, I'm almost done. Okay, here we go. Okay, did that pop up? Start and show. Here we go. There it is. So what you're going to do is you are going to put a number in live stream chat, 1, 2, 3, or 4, to indicate how long you've been teaching. This will be interesting to see how long everyone's been teaching. In this particular topic and the two before this will be helpful regardless of how long you've been teaching the game. I've been teaching Mahjong since 1990, so I would be a number 4. I'll just put number 4 in there. So just put the number of how many years you've been teaching the game. 1, 2, 3, or 4 based on the ranges that are in the poll. And then we'll let that run for a little bit. So also, just while I have you here, how many of you have seen the other 2 sessions? Each of these are standalone, but if you like what we talk about today, I highly recommend that you go back and watch the other 2 episodes because they will layer onto each other and give you even more value. So I just want to see if I have the links. Let me see. I don't have them linked, but you can search for, I'll add the links after. Maybe that's what I'll do. That'll make it easier. Okay, so DC Girl is not a teacher, so you'll drop out. Okay, thank you. Yeah, this is for instructors. Tuesdays is for players. So this one is for instructors. Learning Lab Instructor Edition. And then Player Edition is on Tuesdays. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And these, by the way, are all discussion. There are no presentations, but we will do some demonstrations. And today, I think we're going to use ChatGPT. So if you have not used ChatGPT to help you create lessons, then this may be interesting for you. All right, so here is the frame that we're going to work within. Even the best designed event can fall flat if it's not packaged clearly and delivered with confidence. This session is about taking what you've built and making it visible, structured, and executable, so both you and your players know exactly what to expect. Confidence doesn't come from improvising. It comes from knowing your plan will hold. This is why having a lesson plan is so important. And when you play this game for many years, it comes naturally. So you might think, I don't need a lesson plan because I know how to play the game. But things happen during a lesson that can derail thought processes. So if you have your lesson plan on either digital form or a piece of paper or a whiteboard or a presentation, what have you, then even if you get derailed, you can circle back to where you were, versus doing everything on the fly, which can feel a bit chaotic when you're working with different people, especially if there are people from different backgrounds and different skill sets. So I highly recommend that if you don't use a lesson plan, that you start using a lesson plan. So the first session we talked about event planning, lesson planning. For all intents and purposes, instructors are event planners because we hold lessons, which are events. It's just some of them scale. And that's what we talked about in the second session, because you can do lessons for 4 players, 8, 16, and it can multiply. You could even do a talk like what I do. I talk from a stage, or I give lessons from a stage where I can teach a topic from the stage to upwards of 150 or even more people. So you can scale your lessons. You don't have to stick with just 4, 8, 16 people. If you want to, you know what you can handle, you know what you want to do. It really depends on your lifestyle and the vision that you have for your practice. Let's see, both the previous sessions were very informative and beneficial. Excellent, Deborah. Wonderful. Oh, thank you for that. I'm so glad that they were helpful. Hopefully today's will be too. We're going to talk about packaging if you're just joining us. Okay, so I have 3 questions for you to get us started with that frame in mind. The first question is, and you will have access to these show notes as well. So if you have to take off, you can find this information, or if you don't want to take notes and you just want to think and reflect, you can do that too, and you can circle back to these show notes. So the first question, when you think about running an event or a lesson, what makes you feel most confident? And what makes you hesitate? What makes you feel most confident? And what makes you hesitate? Well, for me, what makes me feel most confident is arriving early. If I am late, I'm a wreck. I hate being late. It makes me very anxious. So if I have to go anywhere, depending on where I'm going, I add time to my drive. So I live in a rural area with one lane roads. So it takes quite a while for me to get to Metro Atlanta. So if I have to go to, let's say, Dunwoody, which is a Metro Atlanta, that's a suburb of Atlanta, I add at least a half an hour to my drive. I want to be at least 15 minutes early based on when people show up. So I still arrive early to set up. So I'm arriving probably an hour early so that I have a buffer of about a half an hour for any kind of delay that might happen, whether there's traffic or maybe I forget something and have to turn around and come back. That is rare, but it has happened. So I try to add a 30-minute buffer. And if I have to go further, then maybe, let's say if it's a typically an hour drive, I would add maybe an hour. So I have to give myself that space, because if I don't, I'm a wreck. I get flustered, I get anxious, I sweat. Not a good look. So I highly recommend that you have a plan and a buffer with that plan. So let's see, Mary, hi Mary. She says she's confident when she's prepared with a balanced lesson plan. I would love to hear an elaboration of balanced. Could you describe what you mean by balanced? I have a thought in my head, but I'm not sure if it is what you're talking about. So I'd love to hear what you mean about a balanced lesson plan. What makes me hesitate is when I'm not prepared, which is I'm always prepared. But sometimes when I do advanced lessons or next level lessons, I might have a need show up that is new, and you can't prepare for something you don't know. So at times you have to come up with something brand new. You have to innovate on the fly. Right then and there, you've got to innovate. So that might make me hesitate, but I just need a few minutes to think things through. It's not really so much a hesitation than it is planning in my head. But some things you cannot plan for. But it is always good to have some alternative activities set aside or identified so that you can leverage what you've done in the past that may work, so that you don't have to pause in the lesson. So have skill builders, a list of skill builders that you can use if something happens to come up. As a matter of fact, you could have the group do a skill builder independently while you think of something that will cover the need that you weren't expecting. So you could do it like an assignment to give you time to come up with something spontaneous. So I highly recommend at a minimum that you've got your lesson plan and then a list of skill builders. And incidentally, I do have a wiki article titled Skill Builders. So if you look for those keywords, you'll find them, and feel free to use those as some activities that can fill in some assignments so that you can prepare maybe something spontaneous. Okay, Sylvia says she hesitates when you arrive and see the group has been drinking and caught up socializing and catching up, because it's going to be difficult to keep their attention. Yes, and I've noticed that this is a current trend right now. Now, when I've played mahjong socially, people have brought alcohol, wine typically, which is fine, I suppose. People are driving, which is a little bit of a concern. But when there is a social or a friend group, there may be some, spritzers involved or something like that. And the challenge there is that it lowers inhibition, and their behavior might be a little more uncontrolled, I guess, uninhibited behavior. And that's hard to control. So, and this really depends too on your teaching practice and what you consider to be your ideal clients. So, Sylvia, is this a desired or an expected atmosphere that you've been working with in your area? Is this something that's trending in your area? The reason I ask is because you could create marketing content to frame your events that ensure players are going to arrive knowing that they need their wits about them. They need to be able to think clearly. So no alcohol. I mean, I don't think I would put no alcohol in the description, but I would word it in such a way that this is a complex game. And if you want to play at a deep level, you want to come prepared to learn and study something new that would attract your ideal client. And if your ideal client isn't one who imbibes when you are trying to teach a complex game, this is something that you'll need to think through. Let me see. Mary says, lecture overview of today's goals, then intro of activity followed by the activity, then Q&A and repeat. Finish with a wrap up. I like that, Sylvia. Oh no, Mary. I call that modular. That's modular or a block method. That's awesome. I use that as well. So you can just kind of plug in the learning objectives. So Sylvia, going back to the alcohol challenge, it's only about 20% of the private group classes that you've taught, but you can tell in 5 minutes, oh, it's going to be one of those lessons. Okay, you know what? Are these lessons, are these all 101s? The 101s, so fundamentals? Let's see, you know what you could do? This is what comes to my mind, though. I don't know if this will work for you, but I'm going to throw it out there. What would it feel like if you had 2 lesson plans for 101s? And that would be one where you can use it for people who are ready to go deep. And then you can have a version for people who want to stay high level. So maybe a core version and a light version, and have them ready to go. And then depending on the sense of the room, you read the room and then you pull out the applicable lesson plan. And that way you still have a plan. You don't have to go to your core plan and figure out on the fly what you've got to trim or cut. Although that is one way to do it. You could use your basic lesson plan, whatever that might be, and then in parentheses, put trim or cut and trim. And then that kind of clues you in on what you can modify on the fly. But if even that is too much, consider creating a light version. And if they're drinking, they're not going to even notice. Yeah, 101. 2 version 101s is a great idea. Okay, good. Will you let me know how that goes? So call it 101 light. So you have 101 and then 101 light, L-I-T, like L-I-T-E, something like that. Something to give you a differentiator so that you know which one will work when you have players who are really more interested in having a good time rather than learning a complex game. Maybe that would even be teaching them Hong Kong Mahjong instead of American Mahjong, because American Mahjong, as you know, as we all know, it's a very complex game and you've got to be able to think things through. And alcohol is not a good fit for that. Okay, so here's the next question. Have you ever attended an event where you weren't sure what was happening or what came next? There's a follow-up question that I'll ask in a minute. Have you ever attended an event where you weren't sure what was happening or what came next? I'm sure I've been to events like this. You just kind of go with the flow. It's not like you have a choice if you're not leading it anyway. If you're the host and you're running it, that's a different story. But if you're a guest, it's not like you have much of a choice. I think, I don't know, I guess I would feel a little just uncertain, maybe a little bit nervous because I don't know what to expect. I don't know what I'm going to be asked to do. I don't know what I'm going to be asked to participate in, what level of exertion I might have to give in a particular activity. I guess nerves might come up. I may get flustered or something like that. And the follow-up question is, what caused that feeling? And I would just say uncertainty. If you have uncertainty, especially if you're high strung, tightly wound, if you are a very practical person, organized, structured, you like a structured environment, that all describes me. And that makes spontaneity uncomfortable. I like knowing what's ahead. So I get nervous and anxious. So I like knowing what's to come. I like seeing an agenda. If I'm going to a planned event, I would love to see an agenda so I know what I'm getting into. Let's see. Does anybody have anything to add on those? What makes you nervous about going to events that aren't planned well? The other thing for me is I want to jump in and lead. I have this desire to fill a gap, see a need and meet it, but that's not always wanted. You got to be careful because you're going there as a guest, not as a leader. So sometimes you got to pull back. As a matter of fact, this is the topic for either the next series that we're going to do beginning next week or the next series after. I have a few series coming up that I want to look at to kind of decide what to fit in here. But I'm kind of thinking that this might fit well with the next series, this particular question. When you go to an event that is not run well, do you feel the urge to step in and either help the host unasked or just meet a need unasked? Let me know if that's you. Hi, Dana. Welcome. Does anybody else do that besides me? I know it happens because I was at an event recently and that actually happened. Not with me, but somebody else. So I know it happens. And when you're a teacher, you're a natural born leader. And if you're not a natural born leader, you've gone through training of some kind where you learn to be that leader as an instructor. So it's a good question because providing help and support when it's not asked for sometimes might be taken the wrong way. Okay, Dana says she feels the impulse, but you ask first. That's good. That is very good to do because you might put people on the spot, which you don't want to do, depending on the situation. Yeah. So it's, of course, good to have a rapport with whoever's hosting the event, but sometimes you don't even know who they are. And if you go to an event that is not being run well, or maybe it's just naturally spontaneous, maybe that is the jive that they're looking for. Who knows? And maybe they don't want structure. So yeah, those are some things that you want to think about. Okay, now here's the third question. And then we're going to move into talking points. So the third question is, when you explain an event to others, do you feel clear? Or do you find yourself figuring it out as you go? So let's say that let's say you have a vision of an event that you have in mind. When you share about it, have you already thought through the logistics, or do you just think out loud on the fly? Maybe make it a brainstorming session, I suppose. when you explain an event to others, do you feel clear or do you find yourself figuring it out as you go? I'm a planner, so usually I work things out in my mind first and then I share. That's the planner in me. And operations, I guess you could say I'm an operations specialist, having an administrative background. I've been trained to plan, organize, execute, assess, evaluate, improve, and repeat. Yeah, that's my background. Okay, so now let's get into our talking points, unless anybody has anything else to share. I am going to end the poll here. Let me just end that and see what it says here. Okay, wow, look at that. We have 33% less than a year, and then almost 70% of over 5 years. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, I like that poll thing. That's pretty cool. Okay, let's see. Mary says, if a teaching situation all set up and ready to talk about. If a teaching situation, it's all set up and ready to talk about. Okay, good. All right, well, let's go ahead and talk about the packaging and delivering. So we have just 3 points, so it should go pretty quickly, and then we're going to do an activity. So the first point is on packaging. Make the experience easy to understand. Before anyone shows up, your event is already being judged by how clearly it's presented. So when we're talking about presenting, there are many ways that you can present an event. You can use an event site. You can use Facebook, which has an event. If you use Facebook groups, there's an event feature. You could use a landing page on your website. You could use an event plugin on your website. You could use Meetup, which is a community builder with a calendar system. You could use other platforms. There are some Mahjong platforms that allow you to create events and manage seating and get RSVPs and payment and all those sorts of things. And typically you're going to be able to at least give a title, if not some kind of a description. So this is the beginning of that packaging, but you just don't want to willy-nilly slap something together. You want to plan it out. So you first of all have got to know what it is you want to deliver. What is the outcome? What is the outcome, and who are the people you're serving? So you need to know how they're coming in. What do they know or don't know? And then what is it that you want them to walk away with? That's when in the middle you figure out what you're going to deliver. And then once you have that lined out, then you can create a blurb, a description that describes all of that. So what it is, who it's for, what will happen, and what players will walk away with. That's basically what you're looking for. If your description is unclear, people hesitate. Not only do they hesitate to come or RSVP, but you may get people who are RSVP'd who are not a fit. That's why clarity is so important. You want to make sure that you're writing your blurb so that you're attracting your ideal client. Do you want a high level player, or do you want to go deep? Do you want to have somebody who is going to play the game at a deep level? Somebody who's serious about learning the game? Or do you want a party atmosphere? And it's okay either way. You just need to know which way you're going to do it, or wherever in between. So you need to identify your ideal client and the kind of events that you want to lead. And when I say events, I even mean lessons. A lesson is an event. It's not, now let's talk about, we mentioned here, people hesitate if your blurb is unclear. If it is clear and structured, they'll feel confident saying yes, because they'll know what to expect, especially if there's a price associated. If a payment is required, they're going to want to know what they're walking away with. They want to know what is promised and that you can deliver on that promise. So the ideal way to write up a description is to include language that is appealing to your ideal client, and it includes what they're walking away with, what their expected outcome is. You're not just describing an event, you're setting expectations. You are setting expectations. So if you don't even have a blurb, then it's just no holds barred. People can do anything because there's nothing there to frame it. So if all you have is Mahjong 101, sign up, here's the price, come on in, nobody knows what to expect. But if you have a blurb in there with language that attracts your ideal client and includes the outcome, you will have players that fit your lesson plan, and you'll be able to go through that plan and deliver on what you promise. If there are people in there who do not fit, it's going to be a challenge. And you'll have to just work on the fly and figure out how to meet everybody's needs, because you may then have a mixture. So you might want to, if that ever happens, you may want to look at your blurb and refine it. And sometimes it may take a few iterations to do that. Okay, any questions about language and about including your outcome? What's good is to use a formula. I have something called the problem solution canvas, and this is a method for creating lesson plans. If you're part of the MAHJLIFE Instructor Guild, it's in the digital library. It's called a problem solution canvas. And basically it's a table where you identify the problem that your students have, and then you identify the solution, what it is that you want to deliver. So where they are and what you're going to deliver, or problem and solution. And then you create the learning objectives that get them from the problem to the solution, or from their challenge to the outcome that they're looking for. So that's how you create your learning objectives or modules in between. And then you break out each one of those learning objectives into other problem solution canvases so that you can map it out. And that's what that tool helps you do. So if we have anyone here who is not in the guild, let me know. Put a not a member in the live stream chat so I know whether or not to. I suppose I could just, don't worry about it. I'll just put a link to that and I'll make it available to you here. And you can see some of the tools that we have available for MAHJLIFE Instructor Guild members. This is just one of many tools that we offer. So I'll make it available on these show notes. It's called a problem solution canvas. So that is a tool that will help you ensure that you are creating the right kind of lesson plan for your vision. And then what you would do once you create that is you would write a blurb that it covers it so that you attract the right students. So that is going to help you set the expectations as well. Any questions about the packaging? Because next we're going to talk about event flow. What players experience in real time. What do they experience in real time? Once, let me see, Mary says, you used beginner for the first fundamental, but you've learned a few players call themselves beginners and come for the super basic class. Now you avoid using beginner and you call it introduction. That's good. So what you could intro to, or what I call mine is fundamentals. So if somebody who's already taken a class sees the word fundamentals, they'll know not to go. But if someone has never taken the class and they see fundamentals, they'll know it's for them. And then the blurb supports that. So your title plus the blurb should edify and build it out or elaborate. But yeah, introduction will work as well, like an intro class. Usually those are high level. Introduction, fundamentals, basics, those types of words convey entry-level content. So the kind of words that you would want for your follow-up classes would be next level, upgrade, or power up, any kind of a forward movement verbs and adjectives that describe improvement would be for intermediates. And then powerful words for advanced play, powerful, inspiring words for advanced play. Okay, so let's talk about event flow. What players experience in real time. Once the event begins, flow becomes visible. Players should always know what they're doing, why they're doing it, and what comes next. What they're doing, why they're doing it, and what comes next. One of the things that I do when I do my fundamental lessons is I explain that it is a progressive approach, meaning that each activity that we do builds on the next. And at the beginning, they're going to know nothing, but at the end of the day, they're going to know how to play the game. They're not going to know necessarily how to win, but they're going to know how to play. So if you frame it in the very beginning, then they'll know where you're going and why they're doing what they're doing. If you use a progressive approach where you add it, kind of like building blocks, sometimes you can layer one thing on top of another. So add, kind of like an additive, but you could also use a block, building blocks, which is what I prefer. I prefer a building block approach. Sylvia says that she teaches 2.5 hour classes, and you call them Intro to Mahjong. Learn the tiles, reading the card, play in an abbreviated game. Okay, good. Intro to Mahjong. And that indicates that it's entry level, which is great. So you're going to get beginners or maybe intermediate players who want to refresh. The second session is Intro to Mahjong gameplay. So you're adding that's a building block. So you've taught them the fundamentals. Now you're going to go, no, actually that's a layer because they already know the fundamentals. Now you're going to cover gameplay, which lays over the fundamentals. So I would say that's layering. So you have a second lesson, Intro to Mahjong gameplay, which covers the walls, full Charleston, guided play. Oh, I see. So it's a combination, actually. You're doing both a layer and a building block there, because before, let me see, actually, no, because you're teaching them in the first one an abbreviated game. What do you mean by abbreviated? Do you include the Charleston, or do you just do like messy Mahjong and then pick and discard, and then you wait to introduce the Charleston in the second session? Let me know, Sylvia. That sounds a little, I think I've heard of people doing that where they don't introduce the Charleston until the second session, that they basically teach people the tiles, how to read the card, and then do messy Mahjong, pick and discard, open play. And then the next session, you teach them how to build the walls, and then you introduce the Charleston. Is that something like what you do? One Charleston, then messy, then open-handed first round. Okay, so it sounds like you're doing layers. So you're using a layered approach, which is good because you're not overwhelming them with the whole kit and caboodle. So that's a good approach. Layered, and then I like a block method where you give them a little bit at a time that one adds on. One is building upon the previous. Either one works, and you just know who your client is and then use the right method that meets their needs. All right, so now let's talk about what happens when your lesson is derailed. What happens when the flow breaks or is blocked? Some of the reasons why it may happen is instructions weren't clear, transitions weren't planned, or timing wasn't managed. You could also get unexpected questions from players. A very common situation that happens is when you offer a class and people come to that class and they have existing experience and they interject more advanced topics. So it can derail your lesson plan because they're looking ahead, or they're trying to bring up something that they already know. Now, whether or not they're doing that because they want to prove to everyone that they are more knowledgeable, or whether they're anticipating where you're heading next, or maybe they're thinking that you forgot something. I mean, there could be a lot of reasons why a player who has experience would interject, but it does happen and you should be prepared for that. And I have a solution for that, by the way. And I've mentioned it before in these sessions. Has everybody heard of a parking lot? I mean, I know you know what a parking lot is out on the street by a building. You know what a parking lot is in that sense. But when it comes to meetings, there is a tool or a method called a parking lot. Oh, hi, Laura. No worries. Yeah, it starts at 1 p.m. on Thursday unless I'm traveling. I've had a lot of gigs, so we haven't met for a bit. But I think we're meeting for this week and next week, and then I'm going to Houston, so I'll be out in a while. But yes, and that's okay, Laura. We're talking about packaging an event, or whether it be a lesson or a workshop or a talk or what have you. So I was just talking about how do you handle it when your lesson plan gets derailed? And I mentioned a tool that I've used. It's actually, I suppose you could call it a tool and a method. It's a tool with a method. Okay, so what you have is a whiteboard. You could do it digitally as well. Just use your mobile phone or your iPad. If you have a laptop, you can do it in lots of different ways. You could even have a laptop with a whiteboard. There are many ways that you can do this, but if you don't have the access to technology, you could use an actual physical whiteboard. And anytime a question comes up that is off plan, you write it on the board. And then you just add to it. Anytime someone has a question that is off plan or ahead of your plan, you write it down on the whiteboard so everybody can see it. And then as the lesson progresses, if you cover that item, you check it off. Don't do a line through it. Don't erase it. Don't squiggle through it. Leave it there with a check, because it shows progress and it shows that you delivered something. It shows value. So leave it up there, a bulleted list, and mark it off as you cover it. And then at the end of the lesson, anything unchecked, hopefully you will have left Q&A time, cover the unchecked topics at the end of the class during the Q&A session. And then if you still run out of time, you could send a follow-up email with anything not covered. That's called a parking lot. And I do that for every next level class. So anything beyond fundamentals goes, I have that whiteboard with me. because it happens nearly every time. So has anyone ever tried that technique before? Yes. Whiteboard where questions are placed to address later. Yes. At a later date or even later in that session. You may even cover those things in the session. So that I have found very helpful. A well-run event feels smooth, not because it's simple, but because it's structured. Now, you definitely, especially for next level classes, you want to have a little bit of wiggle room so that you can meet the needs of the people there. So have a high level plan where you can, and also the skill builders as kind of activities that you could plug in if you need to. So you've got a plan and plugins ready, plus the parking lot. Those three things will be an excellent system for you to use for next level classes. I highly recommend that system. And if you're not using something like that, try it and let me know how it goes. All right, so now the third item is logistics timeline. What happens behind the scenes? This is what gives you confidence as the host. Before the event, you're preparing materials, setting the room, and confirming the details. Make sure that you've got your lesson plan, you've got skill builders, and that you're adding to that list. And then make sure you've got your whiteboard markers and whatever you need, different colors, for example, for different topics maybe. So make sure you have everything you need. I like to use a staging area in my garage so that I could just pick up and run and have all that ready to go between events. During the event, you're managing the time. So I like to have my iPhone with a clock running on it so I can make sure that I'm on target with my lesson plan. Also, you want to make sure that you have transitions between the major segments of your lesson plan. For example, if you do a modular approach, kind of like what, let's see, someone brought up a modular approach. That might have been Sylvia. I think it was Sylvia. But basically, an example would be where you frame the lesson, you do an intro, take a break, come back with an activity, apply the activity, and then do reflections. So at some point in there, you want to have a little bit of a break. There should be some transition, something to take you from one part to the next so that there's no abrupt stop and start, because it can be a bit startling if you're not transitioning from one piece of your lesson plan to the next. So have transitions, and then also support. If you have more than 8 students, I highly recommend that you have an assistant for every 8 students. If you don't, use the buddy system where you have people pair up. And incidentally, I saw a post on social media just today where a player or a student went to a lesson. It was a $50 lesson, and they did not know that they were going to be doing teamwork, and they demanded a refund because they did not want to have a partner. They felt ripped off. This is why you want to make sure that in your blurb, you have teamwork will be involved. That way they know in advance, and they can't ask for a refund because you put in the blurb, teamwork will be involved. Now, if you want to fall back on that, depending on what happens, maybe you won't use it, but maybe you will. If you have too many students show up, put teamwork may be involved. And that way people will have no complaint because it's right there in the blurb. So if you use teamwork, please include it in your packaging. Otherwise, you could have a situation like what I read about today. They demanded, and it wasn't pleasant either, they demanded their money back, and because they had to work in a team. And apparently their partner took over. So they worked with someone with a strong personality, and that coupled with the surprise of having to work as a team. So they weren't prepared to work as a team, and they weren't prepared to sit with someone with a strong personality. So they wanted their money back. You got to be prepared for things like that. And if you include that in your packaging, then hopefully it will stave off any of those kinds of issues. Okay, so then after the event, you've got to close the loop. The first thing that I recommend that you do is have reflections so that you can query them before they even leave. Ask what their number one takeaway was. What are you going to do differently in the next game? And then have everybody share. It's a great way to tie up the lesson in a nice bow. But you could also do a follow-up by email. You could ask for feedback. You could also give them next steps in a handout, maybe where to go for additional learning if it is the last day of a multi-session lesson, for example. So there's before, during, and after. You should have a plan around all of that so that you have a smooth timeline and it feels structured, because those students are going to know that you care. If you have all these three in place, packaging, event flow, and a smooth timeline, your students are going to see you as a professional, and you will likely be rehired. If your client is the venue management, they're going to hear from the students how their experience was, and that will determine whether or not you're hired back. But if you run a professional, or you design a professional package, run a smooth event, you know what you're doing, and students are walking away with what was promised, then you'll be hired back. If you're not being hired back, something may be off. If you assess it and you can't figure it out, get some help from a peer, or maybe a coach, someone. If you have a business coach, have them look at your lesson plan, have them look at your logistics timeline list, the before, during, and after, to see where you can streamline or cut, or maybe add on some frameworks that can help you deliver a more professional event. A well-run event, let me see. Oops, I went back. I went forward. Let me see. Oh, yeah, here's the final comment on the logistics timeline. When you've thought through the timeline in advance, you're not reacting, you're executing. That's why structure is so important. Okay, now let's go down. I think, let me look here. I do have a worksheet on here, but I created it several weeks ago. So let me just take a peek at it. This basically just walks through everything we just talked about. So this is a framework for everything we just talked about. If you feel like your lessons don't flow or your events are chaotic, download that worksheet on this show notes and go through the show notes and do a side-by-side, go through each part of the show notes, and then fill out that form and compare it to what you do. And then hopefully you'll get some visibility there, some clarity on where you can make improvements so that you're delivering a professional event where the experience is appreciated by your attendees. Okay, so now we're going to, let's see, it's 5 minutes till 2. Let me just look at my calendar here. I just want to see if I have something here on the calendar. Usually we go an hour to 90 minutes. I don't have anything on the calendar. So we could do this exercise using ChatGPT if you like. Would you guys like to do that? Let me know. We can do this exercise on the fly. Do you guys want to do a ChatGPT session on how to use everything that we talked about today? I could share my screen and we can do it. Or you could do it on your own. I'd say it'd be another half hour, which is 90 minutes. That's what the plan is. Laura says yes. Okay, even one yes is good for me. Okay, so let me give you the link to the show notes. Here's the show notes. You could download the worksheet because this is what we're going to go through. If you download this worksheet, it's designed to be used digitally, but you could print it out if you want. I'm going to follow along the steps in the activity. Actually, you know what I'll do? I think that the show notes follow. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and we are going to step through this. So I've got the worksheet up. You could download it or just follow along on the screen. So let me get ChatGPT up and we'll do a side-by-side and we'll do it on the fly. I've been saying that a lot lately. We'll do it on the fly. Spontaneity. It's good for my character building. Okay, ad lib. Here we go. New chat, and we are going to, this is called package and deliver. So event packaging. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen. Oh, ChatGPT gave me a whole thing here. I just put in event packaging and they basically threw up what event packaging includes. Theme and concept, venue setup, program experience and design, branding and promotion, services and add-ons. That's a little more than we want to do. We're talking about, we're not doing a huge old, production with catering and, decor and, stages and stuff like that. We're not doing all that. We're doing a classroom or kind of like a workshop experience, I think. So on the left is the worksheet that you can download now or later. And then on the right is ChatGPT. So here we have our package and deliver with confidence. We're going to package an event. So we need to come up with an event title. I think what we should do first, though, is let's say, let's do it. Let's backwards engineer this. We're going to start with what we want to deliver. What do we want people to walk away with? So I'm trying to think of something that has come up again and again and again. And that is one thing that keeps coming up is, why am I always one tile away? Maybe that would be, I'm just going to type that in here. We'll kind of brainstorm it. One tile away, or ready to win and lost. Kind of like why? Why am I losing? Performance. Performance expectations. Let me make this, I'm going to make this bigger. If anybody wants to throw anything out, let me know. This is all on the fly, so it's a group activity here. So please feel free to participate. Okay, Let's see, one tile away, performance expectations, and then also awareness. Awareness basically of the table, because there's so much more involved. I think that's probably good enough. So thinking about these things, what makes this event appealing or valuable? So I think this would be, okay, let's call this something like something about maybe mindset, expectations, mindset and expectations, because really that's what it is. If you're one tile away, there's a lot more that goes involved, that is involved than just being one tile away. So a lot of it is mindset, but it's also awareness. So really, awareness, mindset, and expectations. I'd say mindset comes first. You've got to come prepared. You got to be aware of what's going on, and your expectations should be in alignment with what is happening at the table. The one that got away. Or it could be, I already have a talk on this called How to Handle a Losing Streak. Okay, let's see. How to avoid going on tilt. Tilt is a poker term, but it applies to Mahjong as well. Okay, so this is how you brainstorm an event. You start with the end in mind. What do you want them to walk away with? You want them to, so you're thinking, this is the problem right here, okay? Here's the problem. They're one tile away. They're ready to win and they lose. And then they have unmet expectations. That's the problem. The solution is awareness and managed expectations. And then maybe even coaching, because they may not know what they don't know. Maybe they're one tile away because they need some coaching on hand selection or even hand development, or both. Timing, who knows? So does anybody have anything else to add here? We've got some brainstorming. We've got problems and solutions. We have just a little 3-bullet outline for the description. And then we have 3 potential titles: how to avoid going on tilt, how to handle a losing streak, and the one that got away. Should we call it the hand that got away? Does anybody else have any other ideas here? What about one tile away? Super simple, one tile away. Anybody else have any ideas that they'd like to throw up here? Okay, so let's just, if anybody has any ideas, we're going to circle back. So help me. Okay, let's see if I can make this bigger. Yes, I can. Okay. Help me package an event. Here are the problems. Here are the ideal students' problems. Okay, so we're going to copy this. And we're going to paste it there. And here are the solutions I can deliver. Okay, so now we're going to copy this. This is part of that problem solution canvas idea. Problem solution, and how do you get them from the problem to the solution? Okay, so let's see what ChatGPT says. Are you ready? I don't have my button here. Okay, it's not letting me do it. Let me go full screen here. I don't know why it's not letting me. Okay, ChatGPT, what are you doing here? What's going on? Nothing to see? What do you mean nothing to see? There we go. Okay. So here we go. ChatGPT says, you already have the foundation for a very strong event because the problems are emotional and experiential, not just technical. That gives you an opportunity to position the event as transformation rather than instruction. Right now, your 3 problems all sit inside the same player experience. I was close. I thought I had it. I still lost, and I don't understand why. I like that. I'm going to use that. Okay, so we're going to just put this down here. This is an emotional tension. Emotional tension. Your solutions are also connected. Awareness helps players see what's happening. Managed expectations help regulate emotional reactions and decision making. Coaching helps players apply judgment in real time. ChatGPT is amazing. If you write it, you've got to prompt it correctly. That's the key. You have to know how to help it prepare and think like you. So it takes practice to do this. Otherwise, they're just going to give you what they find out there. So you have to prompt them and then design it as you go. So it does take practice. Okay, so let's keep going. So instead of packaging this as a strategy lecture, I'd frame it as a guided experience. Okay, I love that. A guided experience around competitive resilience, judgment, and steadiness at the table. Okay, so I think that comes into here. A guided experience around competitive resilience, judgment, and I don't think I want to put emotion there. I'll put composure at the table. Okay, so now let's keep going. Here's a few packaging directions. So title ideas. Oh, look at the edge of the win, 1 tile away. Oh my gosh, look, there it is right there, 1 tile away. Ready to win, ready to lose. Position, pressure, and perspective. Thriving 1 tile away. The psychology of the near win. Okay, what about it's kind of long. The psychology of Mahjong, win or lose. I do kind of like this. 3 Ps. Position, pressure, and perspective. but position, I don't think I would do that because that goes into more about gameplay. This particular one is more about mindset and awareness. Okay, did you feed it the word mahjong anywhere? It is interpolating what game we're talking about. Mind blown. It's because this is my ChatGPT and it uses all my previous searches, so it references my threads already. So this chat GPT has been trained for me because I use it. So it knows I'm all about mahjong. It might even go back to some of my previous chats and pull things from there. So what do you think? I think this is not good. Avoid going on tilt. That's kind of negative. I would get rid of that. How to handle a losing streak. I already use it. The one that got away, we kind of got that right. Let's see. Edge of the win. Edge of a win. I think it would be one of these three. How about these two? Which one do you like better? One tile away. How about the proverbial? One tile away. The proverbial one tile away, or the psychology of mahjong, win or lose. Whether you win or lose, what is the psychology of mahjong? Let's see what it says about this. So I'm going to say, what about these? Let's see what they say. Both have potential, but they communicate very different experiences. The proverbial one tile away, this is the stronger title from a branding and curiosity standpoint. It feels thoughtful, reflective, strategic, emotionally intelligent, and slightly literary. It also creates immediate recognition among experienced players because one tile away is universally understood emotionally, not just mechanically. The word proverbial elevates it beyond gameplay mechanics and signals this is about the larger experience of mahjong. Okay, so that looks like it might be a good one. I'll put that in bold. Okay, so let's see the next one. That said, the phrase is long. One tile away. Okay, so let's just say one tile away. It is a bit long. One tile away is the cleanest and most powerful. The psychology of mahjong, win or lose. This is the next one. The combination is excellent. The pairing feels like a signature talk. The psychology of mahjong, win or lose. This is a strong subtitle, but a weak main title. Why? Because it describes the topic intellectually rather than emotionally. People attend events because they're frustrated, they're curious, they have a vision, they're confused, they're competitive, they're disappointed. One tile away triggers emotion immediately. I think we should go with that. Let's go with one tile away, Wes. This is your talk. Okay, so we're talking about one tile away. We chose one tile away. Okay, one tile away. That's what we're working with. It's clean, it's memorable, anticipation, hope, pressure, frustration, possibility, disappointment, resilience. Okay, it also gives you tremendous flexibility, strategy, mindset. Look, mindset, awareness, expectations, mindset, psychology, judgment, emotional regulation. That could be around expectations. So yeah, this works very well. Okay, here we go. So now we want to now move into one tile away. Let's maybe use this, staying steady under pressure, as a subtitle. Staying steady under pressure. Here are some other examples. Every player is one tile away from something. Being one tile away doesn't guarantee the outcome. That could be a good frame for, you know, getting started. As a matter of fact, it's always good to query your class or your audience. Maybe we could have ChatGPT turn this into a question. Being one tile away doesn't always guarantee the outcome. Strong players learn how to handle being one tile away. That's where we're going. They're not there yet. The goal is not certainty. The goal is judgment. Single empty. Okay, let's turn this statement into a question for the audience to frame the introduction. Okay, here we go. Wow. Oh my goodness. Look at all these. We have a lot to choose from here. Okay, so I should have said 6. I should have said, give me 6. Have you ever been one tile away and still lost the hand? Okay, well, that's a good one. Let's just put that here. Opening question. Okay, let's just make that 1. Okay. Next, when you're one tile away, do you assume the win is yours? I like the other one. The second one is a yes/no question. Have you ever been one tile away and still lost the hand? That is also a yes/no. We want okay, let's do this. Give me 6 open-ended questions. Based on that statement. Here we go. This is what we want. What thoughts or expectations tend to surface when you become one tile away from winning? What thoughts or expectations tend to surface when you are one tile away from winning? Okay, that's all right. How does being one tile away influence the decisions you make for the rest of the game? That is a good one. That's relatable. I like that second one, I think, better. Describe a time when you felt confident you would win because you were one tile away, but the outcome changed unexpectedly. What did you learn from it? That one's a little long. In what ways can being one tile away create both opportunity and emotional pressure? Here's another. How do strong players remain? I want this to be about me. I don't want it to be about them. So I don't think number 5 works. What does the experience of being one tile away reveal about confidence, expectations, and judgment in Mahjong? I think that's a leading question because that's what we're going to give them. I think probably, based on what I shared, do you have a preference? I think I do. I don't want to say what it is. I want to see if anybody else picked the same preference. I have 2, but one I think is better than the other. I think anybody want to say which one of these stands out to them? We're doing a live ChatGPT session if you're wondering what we're doing. Okay, I think number 2 is the best one right here. How does being one tile away influence the decisions you make for the rest of the game? That could be in the middle of the game. It could be in the end game. It could also allude to what is happening and what are you going to do about it. So there's a lot to think through there. So I think that's pretty good. That would be a good opening question, I think. Okay, so here's our event title. Yep, Deborah, good. One tile away, staying steady under pressure. Opening question, how does being one tile away influence the decisions you make for the rest of the game? Okay, now, this is what we're going to show ChatGPT. This is what we've decided. So here is my title and opening question. Remember the problems and solutions, then create an event that highlight. This is where you've got to give them a frame to work within, mindset, awareness, and this is where your outlining comes in. If you outline it, ChatGPT will deliver what could be inspirational for you. So that's why having an outline, all this over here on the other side, that's why that is important. So you want to start with an outline. It's got to come from you. Otherwise, it's going to be all ChatGPT, and whoever reads it is going to know it's ChatGPT. So if you have an outline first that comes from you, which is what we did first, and then use ChatGPT as the engine for inspiration, and then you tweak it to make it your own. That's how you use ChatGPT and how it comes through authentically rather than like AI. You don't want it to sound like AI because they're all going to look the same. I don't know if you've noticed, but you can tell who uses AI out there incorrectly, because you can use AI correctly and it will sound like you. Okay, here we go. Okay, here's our blurb. Oh, that's way too long. All right, so I'm just going to copy that, but that is way too long. I'm thinking one paragraph. Okay. So I'm going to just push that down, outline, and then up here, I'm going to put that in there. That is way too long. I'm thinking one paragraph. I should have told it one paragraph blurb. Okay, here we go. All right. Even that is probably too, oh, I have it squished. I have it squished up. I'm going to save this though. Long blurb, long description. And then here's our blurb. Every mahjong player knows the feeling of being one tile away, the anticipation, the pressure, and the expectation that the win may finally be within reach. That's storytelling. But strong positions do not always lead to immediate outcomes. And those moments often influence decision-making that more players may influence decision-making more than a player realizes. Okay, make this player facing. I should have put in there, ask ChatGPT, create a player facing blurb, create a one paragraph player facing blurb. Okay, that's what I should have said. So one paragraph. Oops. Okay, so now make this player facing, and I also really liked this, beginning with this, with something, there. Make this player facing beginning with, oh, let's say that conveys this. There we go. All right, let's see what it gives us. I want to read this first though. Let's see. This experience-focused event explores the mindset behind competitive play through the lens of awareness, expectations, and emotional steadiness at the table. Participants will examine how pressure can shape judgment, how unmet expectations affect confidence, and how greater awareness can lead to calmer, clear decisions, win or lose. Okay, that's good, but it is not player-facing. This is event host facing. This would be a description for the director of the activities coordinator. This is not player facing. So that's why you want to be specific and say player facing. Okay, so here we go. Incidentally, I also use Grammarly. If you have a Grammarly add-on, that's what this is right here. So I use Grammarly to help me with word choice and also word sentence structure. And so that's also something that I highly recommend, is that you use Grammarly to help you refine your writing if you don't have that training naturally. I don't. So I use Grammarly and ChatGPT to help me. Okay, so here we go. Let's see what it does with this. Okay, you are one tile away. Your hand is strong. The pressure builds and every discard suddenly feels bigger. I would change that, but we'll keep going. In those moments, confidence, frustration, urgency, and expectation can all begin influencing your decisions at the table. That's good. This guided experience explores the emotional and strategic side of competitive mahjong, helping you, not players, helping you develop greater resilience, sharper judgment, and steadier composure under pressure. Through discussion, gameplay insights, and coaching-based perspectives, you will learn how awareness and expectation management can lead to clear thinking, stronger decision-making, and greater confidence, which whether the hand ends in a win or loss. Okay, that's awesome, but we're going to tweak it. I would tweak it and then ask to make it shorter. So you're one tile away, your hand is strong, the pressure builds, and every discard feels heavy. How about that? It feels heavy, especially if it's not the winning tile. It's disappointing. In those moments, confidence, frustration, urgency, and expectation. I think expectation is used too many times here. We got expectation there and there. So I think I would say and urgency, and I would let that go. So in those moments, confidence, frustration, and urgency can all begin influencing. I'm thinking we are talking about the problem, not the solution yet. In those moments, frustration and urgency, maybe even switch those around. Urgency and frustration can, this is where Grammarly comes in, frustration can begin to influence your decisions. And I would remove at the table. So can influence your decisions, period. This guided experience explores the emotional and strategic side of competitive mahjong, helping you develop greater resilience, sharper judgment, and steadier composure under pressure. Through discussion, through light instruction, because I want there to be an educational component. So I would say light instruction, group discussion, gameplay insights. So I'd put this first. So it would be more like what they can expect from the timeline. We're going to start with instruction, then we'll apply what we learn, then we'll do a group discussion, and then maybe some coaching. So maybe the coaching can come before the group discussion. Okay. Through light instruction, gameplay insights, coaching-based perspectives, and group discussions, or end group discussion, you will learn how awareness and expectation management can lead to clearer thinking, stronger decision-making, and greater confidence, whether you win or lose. Okay, now What do you think of that? I feel this is a bit long. Let's see if ChatGPT can refine and shorten. Refine and shorten. Okay. Let's see how that looks like. It's the same length. No, it's like one sentence shorter. You're one tile away, your hand is strong, the pressure builds, and every discard feels heavier. In those moments, urgency and frustration can begin shaping your decisions. This guided experience explores the emotional and strategic side of competitive mahjong, helping you build resilience, sharpen judgment, and maintain composure under pressure. Though through instruction, gameplay insights, coaching perspectives, and group discussion, you'll learn how awareness, okay, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, this is good. Okay, there's our description right there. And I think we could get rid of all this now. So you want to keep your outline there. You might even want to save it as a separate document so you can see where you've come from. So I would go ahead and get rid of this. So just remember that you want to ask ChatGPT, create a 1-paragraph player-facing blurb. And if you're pitching this to a client, you could say, create a client-facing blurb for highlighting the value you promise. So then you can tell it after you get the player-facing one, this is the client facing. So if you need to do a proposal, it's good to have a client facing blurb and a player facing blurb. Okay, so there we go. We got lots to work with. We've got our title, we have our opening question, we have a player facing blurb and a client facing blurb. Now, what makes this appealing or valuable? So let's ask ChatGPT that question. So now this is, okay, this is way too long, but this is what you're looking for. 1 tile away and should win. Look at all that. I'm not going to read all that. Okay. Use this to create a what to expect, a player facing what to expect list. And I want to say short, like maybe 6 bullets. Well, I want an opening sentence, something. Create an opening paragraph, please. A short, short opening paragraph. Okay, make it more of a transition between the player-facing blurb and the value list. Okay, that's too long. Shorter. Okay, that's better. All right, now we're going to put that and we're going to replace this now. And then we're going to go grab this list. Okay. Being 1 tile away can create both confidence and pressure at the table. This guided experience helps players. Okay, that is not player facing. That is, you know what I think I would do? I think what I would do is leave this list here and put it up here under this. So this would be insert value list below. So now we don't really need an introductory paragraph. That player-facing blurb is the introduction. So here's our list. This is the value list. This is what they're going to walk away with. This is their what's in it for me. You want to have a what's in it for me, and it should be short. Why is it putting the, okay, there we go. All right, now here we go. Map your flow, opening, core segments, transitions, and closing. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to copy that and put it in ChatGPT. And I'm going to say, help me with my event flow. Help me with my event flow. Opening, core segments, transitions, and closing. And then in here, I'm going to put, I like 3 reflections. Okay, let's see what we get. Okay. Start with emotional recognition and immediate audience connection. We've already got our question, so we're doing that already. So now here are our segments. Segment 1, segment 2, segment 3. There's a transition. So we're going to go here. Segment 3, core segments. So these, I usually stick with 3s. So 3 talking points, 3 learning objectives, 3 segments. That's what these are. These are learning objectives. So 3 is about all people can take in a 1-hour session. So it depends on how long you're going, but we can't take so much information. Try to keep it to 3. That's kind of the sweet spot. Okay, how you move between segments. Segment 1, segment 2, segment 3. Okay, so then this right here is this transition. And then here, transition. Here, transition. I haven't done any reading yet. We're going to do that in a minute. Okay, and then we go down to our closing. Okay, here's our reflections. Reinforce. Yeah, I want to capture that too. Okay, we're going to capture all that right there. Okay, now let's go ahead and look at it here. Okay, so now we're gonna read it. Okay, now wait a minute. We don't have a, how do you start? Our open is this right here. Opening question. Okay. All right, here we go. So let's look at it. We're going to ask them, how does being 1 tile away influence the decisions you make for the rest of the game? And then you can even make it interactive. Let them answer. Ask for a raise a hand of who would like to share. And then either address a concern, answer a question, offer coaching. You could also ask Socratic questions to help them go deeper. You know, what made you say that? What made you choose the word whatever? So if anybody says something unexpected or even shocking, go deeper. As long as you're not going to embarrass anybody, of course. You don't want to take them too deep. But sometimes a question may result in a question, and that's okay. Okay, so here we go. Segment 1, the pressure of being 1 tile away. Focus on the emotional shift that occurs when players feel close to winning, urgency, attachment to outcome, tunnel vision, frustration, emotional decision-making, unmet expectations. This segment helps players recognize pressure before discussing solutions. Okay, so this is what you're going to cover, but you actually still need the content. So you would need to insert content. This is your approach. This is not what you're going to share necessarily, but this is your approach. Your approach is to focus on the emotion. And then here the approach is to shift into strategic awareness. So you're going to need to come in here and insert content. And that's where your experience comes in. Any lessons that you've created before, think about what you've done in the past and leverage that knowledge and then repurpose it here. Okay, so then down here, we're going into steady under, let me see, shift into strategic awareness, assessing position realistically, evaluating weight quality. So let me show you an example. Here, I would do, for example, how to handle a learning streak. I would look at my how to handle a losing streak and pull out content from there and rework it in here with this kind of approach. So think about what you've done and leverage that content. It will save you time and create another opportunity for you to be inspired by your own work. And that will come out feeling more aligned with you. It will have your personality built in already. So that's one way to make sure that you're not feeling that you're not going to be using ChatGPT and just turning it out like ChatGPT gave it to you. We don't want that. Okay, so another example here would be, I would go to my power of position and the art of timing. Power of, and by the way, both of these I think are in the wiki. So if you want to look at the wiki for inspiration, feel free to do that. I think this is in there, wiki article. Look for that. And then power of position and the art of timing. That's also a wiki article. Okay, grounding framework to help players think more clearly. Okay, you give them a framework. Give them a framework because that's where they can begin to build confidence. It's what they build on and within. It gives them a structure. It gives them a foundation to build on and a structure to stay within. But anyhow, okay, so next is staying steady under pressure. Bring the emotional and strategic elements together. Composure, expectation management, resilient judgment over outcomes, making strong decisions without guarantees, learning from losses without spiraling emotionally. Okay, so now this one, for example, I would do push-pull judgment. And there's a wiki article there too. Push-pull judgment and also include or really conclude with healthy mindset. Healthy mindset. Once we understand both the emotional pressure and the reality of position, the goal becomes learning how to stay steady. That doesn't feel complete. Yeah, I don't like that. So if you ever don't like something, I turn it red and then go back. So that doesn't resonate. Okay, so here, awareness and pressure, or awareness and position. Pressure alone is not the problem. The real challenge is whether our awareness remains clear once expectation takes over. Pressure alone. See, this doesn't feel right either. I don't like any of those transitions right now. The moment we become one tile away, the game often stops feeling theoretical. No way, that's awful. Pressure enters the picture and pressure changes behavior. Now that right there does resonate, but this right here does not for me. The moment we are one tile away, players can lose peripheral. How do you spell that? Vision. There's got to be awareness in here. You lose peripheral vision, basically what's happening at the table. I'm not sure if that works, but at least that's better than any of these other things. So that will take them from being one tile away down into awareness. And that's what you're looking for in a transition. You want to go from the current topic to the next topic. So here we're talking about awareness. So they didn't really talk about pressure here. They're talking more about evaluation, awareness. So we want to transition from awareness to pressure. Give me a transition from awareness to being using that to help steady a player. Awareness alone is not enough. Awareness is not enough. Awareness is just the beginning. Okay. The real value is that, okay, let's just copy this out of here so we can compose. Okay. The value, we don't need real. The value is in the value is, well, let's just do in the space between emotion and reaction. Isn't that the same thing? Allowing us to steady ourselves, think more clearly, and make stronger decisions under pressure. Okay, let's just say we're going to ask ChatGPT for help. Refine this. Awareness is just the beginning. The real value lies in the space between emotion and reaction, the space that allows us to steady ourselves, think more clearly, and make better decisions under pressure. Okay, so how do you do that though? How do you get between emotion and reaction? You get between emotion and reaction by creating a pause long enough for awareness to interrupt impulse. Oh my gosh, that is huge right there. In Mahjong, pause is often very small, sometimes only seconds, but it changes everything. Without awareness, pressure becomes urgency. Urgency becomes attachment. Attachment becomes reactive. Players start chasing outcomes instead of evaluating position or the game. The goal is not to eliminate emotion. Okay. The space where composure lives. Okay, this is awesome, but it's way too long. Okay. You create space between emotion and reaction by slowing down long enough for awareness to interrupt impulse. Instead of reacting emotionally to pressure, frustration, or urgency, you pause, reassess the table, and return your focus to judgment rather than outcome. That space is where composure and better decision making begin. That gave me chills. That literally gave me chills. So that's the transition. Okay. So now we can unbold and turn that black. Okay, now here, this one is not, and then this, just for here, sometimes I'll say this doesn't resonate. Let's just see what they come back with. Try this instead. So we're talking about staying steady under pressure. Once we can name the pressure and see the table more clearly, we're in a better position to steady ourselves before making the next decision. Another way to put it, when we understand what we're feeling and what's actually happening at the table, we can pause, reset, and choose our next move with more clarity. I like this one better, I think. Once we can name the pressure and read the room more clearly, that would be discards, exposures, player, opponent, behavior. Read it. That's reading the room. We're in a better position to steady ourselves before making the next decision. Okay, so there we go. The moment we become one tile away, the game often feels, okay, so now we can get rid of that. And this really goes down here. Okay, now here we go to our reflections. We're almost done, I think. Reinforce that competitive this is also an approach. This is not content here. This is the content right here, the reflections. How does being, so this is what you would actually ask your audience. How does being one tile away affect your emotions and decision-making at the table after this talk? How do you think what you've learned today will affect your thought let's see, will affect, here we go. How do you think what you learned today will affect your emotions and decision making going forward? That feels kind of awkward. Refine. How do you think today's discussion will influence your emotions, awareness, and decision-making going forward? That's much better. What expectations do you place on yourself once you feel close to winning a hand? So it would really be, what expectations will you place? Because we're thinking about the future, not now. This is going forward. What expectations will you place on yourself when you are close to winning? What would it look like to measure success by the quality of your decisions rather than the outcome? Okay, that's it. This is pretty cool. Being one tile away is not a promise. It is a moment of possibility. That gave me chills as well. Anytime I get a visceral reaction, and incidentally, if you read out loud, you're more likely to have that experience. Anytime you get a visceral reaction or response to something, like for me, I get chills, it's right. It's good. So keep it, work on it, refine it, and make it your own. Okay, okay, so I would just, let's see. This, I think, is where gameplay comes in. I know we're going long, but this is good stuff. Okay, logistics timeline. Okay, we're going to try to leverage ChatGPT and get us through this quickly. Next, we have the timeline. This will be logistics, so we can just copy, cut, and paste. I'm sure all this is fine. This is all logistics. This is not part of the, you know, your class. This is all to help you get there. So this is just all standard logistics for event planning. Promote the experience, encourage players to reflect, prepare discussion prompts, create comfortable environment, set expectations. This is all good. I'm going to leave that there for you to review later. Okay, now confidence check. Where do you feel most prepared? Where do you still feel uncertain? What would help you feel more confident going forward to your next event? I'm going to leave those open for you to think about after you go through the exercise yourself, if that's what you decide to do. And then what is one step you'll take before the next event? Okay, so there we have it. That's it. I'm going to save this as an example for you to look at. So with this side by side with the framework, you could do it yourself and then kind of see the example and work up a whole event for yourself based on this example. Okay, I hope you found that helpful. Any thoughts or comments about this exercise and this topic? Does anybody have any ideas or any way to make this whole process better? Do you feel like it's too much? Do you feel like it's just right? Is it a framework that you'll use going forward? I think it's good. I might even use this as a signature talk. So don't use it as a signature talk. It might become one of mine, but I'm happy to share it. Okay, let me see. Okay, so I've saved that. I will upload it for you to check out later. Try using ChatGPT, but you've got to teach it how to speak like you. You got to give it a framework. You got to give it examples. You've got to give it metrics so that it delivers what you're expecting. Like how we said, a 1-paragraph player-facing description. You know, you've got to tell it what you're looking for. Otherwise, you're going to be editing a lot. The more you tell it to do, the less you have to edit. Okay, thank you, Wes. Appreciate you being here. Good to see you here. Oh yeah, that is it is really ChatGPT will save you a lot of time, but you've got to learn how to use it and not just take what it gives you and just put it out there. Don't do that. You've got to make it your own. Copy and paste it into a Word document, read it out loud, refine it, and then put it back in ChatGPT and ask it to refine, streamline, shorten, pull it back out, read it out loud, and go through this as a cyclical process so that eventually it becomes you. It's like a refinement process. So you're going to go in and out of ChatGPT with this is what I'm going to use, refine it, shorten it, elaborate, those sorts of things. And then you work with ChatGPT as an assistant, and eventually you end up with a piece that's yours. You're welcome, Laura. My pleasure. Okay, now let me see. I think I closed Okay, now we're down at the bottom. Where do you feel most confident in your event? And where, oh no, we already asked that. That's already down in there, in that that worksheet. We already did the reflections in there. So is there anything else I can help you with? I'd be happy to answer any other questions you might have, or if you're good to go. Make sure you download, well, not make sure, but I highly recommend Grammarly. Check out Grammarly. It's very helpful. And you can get a Grammarly, I don't know if it's called a plugin or I think they call it an extension on Google. Add it as an extension or something like that. So if you subscribe to Grammarly, it will connect to your browser. And that way, when you compose in ChatGPT or even in social media, if you compose there, Grammarly will help you refine your word choice and sentence structure and things like that. And you'll always come across professional. Well, not always, if you edit and make a mistake, of course. All right, I don't see any questions, so I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Thank you for joining me on this journey. It was a lot of fun. I enjoy using ChatGPT. I think it is a great tool if it's used right. So, and I still have much to learn. I'm sure there are some other things that I'll be learning that I'll be more than happy to share with you as we go. We'll do more of these episodes, I'm sure, using ChatGPT as we create on the fly and work on projects together. I'm going to also thank our moderators for helping monitor the chat. Okay, I don't think I've missed anything. We'll see you again next week, and stay tuned for the topic, because I'm not sure. Will you share the chat? Oh, let me see here. I can, so you can see how I questioned it and how I went from, yeah, I've got it right here. Let me see if I can download it. Share. Copy link. Is that all I need? Let me just plug it in here and see if it takes me right to the chat. Yep. Okay. Yes, I can share that. Absolutely. So we'll share. I'll have a button for the chat GPT journal, or I guess it's the thread. Chat GPT thread, the framework, or the worksheet example. Okay. So you'll have the worksheet example, and the Chat GPT thread. And you'll be able to follow all those and learn how to tell Chat GPT what you want. Okay, let me know how it goes. I look forward to seeing you next week. And I do have a trip coming up, but it's at the end of the month. I leave on a Thursday, so we won't have a session on Thursday at the end of the month. I think that's the 28th. I'm leaving. Wait, am I leaving on the 20? No. Oh, next, at the end of the month, I'll be at the Instructor Summit. So there'll be no Thursday event. The 28th, I'll be in Atlanta. So there won't be an event on the 28th, but we will be here next week for a new topic. Maybe we'll do something different though. Well, no, these are all standalone. I'm not quite sure yet what I'm going to do. I have at least three different series ready. I just have to choose which one to use. And we usually do them in threes. So I will look at that and you will be surprised. So enjoy, and remember to look back on the previous 2 episodes because they're building blocks. So you may find some value with those. And thank you again for being here. Thank you, Deborah. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And I can't wait to hear how things go if you use these ideas. I'm going to go ahead and sign off now. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, subscribe. Click the little gray bell if you do. That way you'll get notification for when I post a new video or go live, and you won't miss an opportunity to learn a new strategy or pick up an insight to the game that could give you an advantage at the table. Between now and the next video, may all your picks be keepers.